Ladies and gentlemen, the San Diego Padres, after all the offseason, after all the acquisitions, they just can't score. This huge lineup, they can't score. They make a meme of Clayton Kershaw, and they can't score. The Padres getting swept this weekend and playing pretty horridly baseball as a whole through the season, and especially over the last week. You know what you're listening to. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Monday, May 15th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter at Javapeno, Javiiipeno, or you can follow me on at @LO_Padres if you want Padres updates only and my dumb tweets. Not if you don't want that. That's totally cool. Totally cool with me. Absolutely. And if you want to see how crazy I've gotten on YouTube, go find that at Locked On Padres on YouTube so you can see my Joker Mad Jester hat has made a return, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, we're back. Firstly though, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Padres your first listen every day. We appreciate you. Subscribe, do all that stuff. Very much appreciate you all the listeners. Thank you for keeping this show alive, keep doing the good work and what have you. Definitely, very much appreciate that. On today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we are recapping. It might not have been made clear by a little bit of zany intro, dare I say. We're recapping this weekend's series against the Dodgers. A pretty hotly anticipated series, especially considering that they are the Dodgers, they are the rival. And the Padres went in and did what the Padres do, which is fall dramatically short of expectations. I mean, you know, it's been said many times. It's not a tragedy. I need everybody to be very, very clear. I need everyone to look at me when I say this. It is not a tragedy. It's a comedy. It's good stuff, right? It's great. After the Padres won that game against the Dodgers, they lit up Clayton Kershaw. Tatis hit the 2 home runs off him. And then now I'm not saying that the team was responsible for this, like the actual players and the people who were playing the game. But you have that little crying Kershaw meme, which I've talked about on this show. I said, look, let me tell you. If you're complaining about how this is some class, grow up, leave it alone. It's funny. It's a meme. But I also said, it's a little getting ahead of yourself if you're the Padres, because it is just one game, and Clayton Kershaw is a legend. I'm not talking about, again, I don't know who necessarily to prove that. But ever since then, Padres went 1-7. They've lost 7 of their last 8 games. And they, ladies and gentlemen, are one of the most disappointing lineups, not just this year, but for me personally of recent memory. Some may say, oh, this is what 2021 was like. 2021, I actually genuinely think, and I thought that before the season too, that look, I still have my shirt of when they were putting Will Myers and Eric Hosmer as part of the core 4, you know what I mean, for Slam Diego, which granted in 2020 they were. But like, you should have known with those guys. With this team, it is almost entirely just massive disappointment. Before we even talk about the specific games, the Padres, as of now, are 27th in batting average, 20th in on-base percentage, 24th in runs, 14th in home runs, which isn't bad, and 19th in slugging percentage. That's right, 24th in runs. You went out and you signed Xander Bogaerts. You went out and you traded for Juan Soto. You got El Nino back in the lineup. You extended Manny Machado, a move that I did not, and I have been on record, and I'm not saying that he's going to be bad. I actually think he's been looking a lot better of late. I never thought they had to make that move. Go ask Matt Chapman and the Blue Jays, and that's why they didn't have to make that move. I'm telling you, it's in baseball, it has been shown Do not fully 1000% commit to this many players when you haven't necessarily won anything yet. Well, Padres didn't get that memo, let me tell you. And so far, it is biting them in the butt. And look, let's be clear here, because just in case someone comes at me, a month from now and they say, hey, look at you talking all this nonsense, and then look at that they're playing better now. I know. I understand. I look like that Ashoka Tano from Star Wars, almost like that kind of head thing. Anyway, for people watching the video. Look, I get it, but this is my job. I got to cover it daily. The Padres, it's a lot of different things. Everyone's talked about runners in scoring position. I'm going to talk about it again. They're 30th in Major League Baseball with batting average in terms of runners in scoring position. If you want to go to a more advanced stat, no problem, I got you. If you want to go by WRC+, which I like using on this show a lot, they're 27th in baseball with only the Colorado Rockies, Kansas City Royals, and Detroit Tigers worse than them. It's not great. Cleveland is better than them, and Cleveland was not expected to have an amazing lineup. They've still been better than them. Philadelphia, without Harper and Trey Turner slump, they've been better. The Oakland A's have been better. It's pretty disastrous. And the Dodgers, who according to people who don't pay attention sometimes to baseball and are too bullish on looking only at the things that make the headlines, they were like, oh, the Dodgers are mid. They're going to be bad this year. Well, they're 5th in WRC+ with runners in scoring position. And I'm sure that this weekend series helped them out. 7 of their last 8 games, they left 9 runners in scoring position in Sunday's game. That's right. It wasn't on national TV this time, but you have all this smack. And before the series, Bob Melvin, who I know is getting a lot of crap right now, and I do not think that he deserves the crap. This is a guy who has managed much less talented squads. He was respected by nearly everyone in baseball, practically on record, right? People have been on record. Everyone loves him. And he's taken some poorly constructed teams, as evidenced by the Oakland A's, and has done wonders with them. And he did wonders with this team last year, who bounced back without having the same level of talent. By the way, remember Tatis suspension, no Soto yet. Luke Voit was the big thing we were all trying to get excited about. And took them to the playoffs, and then they end up being the Dodgers and Mets. That should not still be forgotten. So I'm not putting this on Bob Melvin. That being said, it is crazy that you basically called out the team after you had gotten ejected in that last game against the Twins. And they go out, and what happens? They score 2 runs in 3 games against their biggest rival. I mean, there's really not much more I can say. There really isn't. It's almost not even worth getting into the specific games. The specific games, look, everyone was worried about the Padres pitching. Padres pitching is okay this year. It's not that bad. And especially considering that I don't think anyone thought it was going to be the best rotation in baseball. It was more of a, hey, does this rotation have depth? That was the issue. I don't think that they have a lights-out number 1 starter. They don't have your Garrett Coles. They don't have your Corbin Burns. They don't have your, anyone on the Tampa Bay Rays, apparently, right? Like, they don't have those quality guys, but they had all these capable starters that in a playoff series could give you trouble. You have Musgrove. He's been steady. You have Darvish. You have Snell. And, people were wondering the back-to-back rotation. It's not that bad. In terms of ERA, they're 14th. Batting average against, they're 7th. And whip, they're 14th. Walks and hits per inning. That's not too bad. And I understand you could bring in xFIP and all those things. Seth Lugo, right? Like, he could be due for some regression. But bottom line is they've been fundamentally pretty fine, right? Especially for a team whose identity was supposed to be having the Mount Crushmore at the top of the lineup. Matt Carpenter was good for a while. He's been in a dead slump. Nelson Cruz, he's been in a slump too, although on this show I thought that was going to happen. I really did. He's 45. BABIP was through the roof. He's not a speed guy. I just thought that was definitely going to happen. And even still, Nelson Cruz, so far this year, has practically been the best Padres player with runners in scoring position. As of the last time I checked it, it went Cruz and then Manny Machado, which is nuts. Soto's bad, and granted, Soto deserves a lot of credit because Soto has been in sicko mode for like 2.5 weeks now. He's been remarkable. Like, this guy's batting like 390. I mean, he's been incredible, and he had a pretty decent series this time. You know who hasn't been good lately? And I don't think he deserves as much crap just because he was so great the first month. But Xander Bogaerts, last 20 games, 187, 299, 307. Are you kidding me? I'm not saying that this man was supposed to go out and be an absolute beast. I was a little bit worried. He wasn't hitting the ball as hard as first month, but even still, he's Xander Bogaerts. This Padres team, there is nothing more frustrating for me covering the Padres these past couple years than players who don't just regress. They become anemic. They become pathetic. It's not like, all right, Xander, let's look at his numbers. First month, he hits 290 with like a 370, on base percentage. His numbers overall in the year still look pretty good. But, I'm not saying that he has to do that again. 290, 393, 490 slugging. That's insane, right? I'm expecting second month, 250, 320 on base. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Not great, but not terrible. No, it's 150, 244, 200 this month. His slugging percentage is lower than his on-base percentage. That's always a bad sign. It's an atrocious sign. And his ground ball rate, these last 20 games, he's Eric Hosmer. 58.6% ground ball rate. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a sick joke. Oh my gosh. This Padres team, I'm going to tell you who they remind me of. And it's not a good comparison. It's vibes based. It is admittedly overreaction emporium. Although I don't even think we're in the overreaction emporium. A month of baseball is not overreaction emporium. Not anymore. It's more like just early vibes. I don't know. I can't think of a good other name as my hat starts to fall off and whatnot that I'm wearing. But while we fix the hat, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the team that they remind me of and recap the games a little bit more in detail, although I imagine that some of you might be enjoying me losing my mind, let me talk to you about something that hasn't been a total disappointment. That's eBay Motors, ladies and gentlemen. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. And let me tell you, folks, eBay Motors, they help you out. They help you out big time. They are not the Padres. They are always there for you, and they do not let you down. Why? I am really messing up this hat. Let me tell you, they're really good, guys. The next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay's guaranteed fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. You just add it to your little My Garage thing. You look for the green check, and that will tell you that the part will fit, or you get your money back. That's pretty cool, right? So don't worry. If they mess up, you're not going to get, screwed over. It's great. They got your back and whatnot. Because just like sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy. Very easy, in fact, some would say, to bring home that W when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride, folks. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, though. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. But seriously, though, go check out eBay Motors. Really good stuff. And we're back, everybody, here on this Locked On Padres podcast. We're back. We're back, but not necessarily totally back. You know what I mean? The mind is still out of control. You know what I mean? We're still losing it a little bit. We're still a little crazy. The team that the Padres currently remind me of, in terms of overall vibes, and I don't want to do the thing where I say this is the worst team ever, this is the most embarrassing team ever. One of the gripes of mine in sports coverage, and granted, this is a young people thing, and I love trashing the boomers or whatever in sports media and how they seemingly don't care about anything from modern day sports. You got your Mike Wilbon talking about how no one cares about wins for pitchers anymore. It's like, hey, Wilbon, can you read one article on why wins aren't good? That since 2010, 8, we've known this? Whenever Felix Hernandez won that Cy Young, basically is when I think we started learning that it's a useless stat. Pretty useless for judging pitchers. Here's my thing. Everyone loves to go out and they say, this is the best ever. This is the worst catch ever. This is the biggest choke ever. I don't want to do that because I've also only been alive 26 years. And some folks who are listening to this podcast, they'd be like, look, I've been there in the dark times. You know what I mean? And to be fair, even I have to a degree. Look, I remember that friggin' the 2014 Padres. That wasn't fun. We're getting out here getting excited about Yangervis Solarte. We're getting excited about all these guys. It wasn't great. Seth Smith's the best player. This is not the worst. My comp is, in my lifetime, to me, this team has a lot of vibes that are similar to the 2015 Washington Nationals. Some would say the 2021 Padres fit the bill. I think they do a little bit too. But for me, this is the 2015 Nationals. For those who don't remember, the Washington Nationals, back when they had Strasburg and they had Ryan Zimmerman, Jason Worth, Ian Desmond, and these guys were like in their prime. They have Jordan Zimmerman when he was good. They have Max Scherzer still at the time. I'm pretty sure. And they were billed every year on the cover of Sports Illustrated for being that team. They had all the hype. They were a team that had not been good in basically forever, right? And then all of a sudden they have all these hopes, the chosen ones. You know, they had their own Luke Skywalkers to help the rebellion destroy whatever was in the evil empire of the NFC. Sorry, football's been on my mind, I guess. The National League East, right? And they came in and were terrible. And what happened was, oddly enough, is that Bryce Harper actually won his MVP, one of the best performances by a player of his age that we'd basically ever seen, which is wild, right? And every single player, with the exception of Scherzer, underperformed dramatically. They weren't just they underperformed dramatically and wasted an MVP season of Bryce Harper. The only difference with this comp is we don't have so far on this Padres team that runaway, oh my God, superhuman, Kryptonian MVP candidate. I think that Tatis has been pretty great for the most part. And Xander at the beginning of the season, before he decided to become terrible, was one of those guys. So that part of the comparison falls through. But in terms of the blockbuster hype, in terms of the covers, look, Sports Illustrated, you can go look that up. I remember that they were the team. They're like, don't even play the games. It's over. Nationals have too much talent. And they squandered it. They were the darlings of the league, and they got all the headlines, and they squandered it. Those are the kind of vibes. I still remember all the Sports Center stories. I still remember seeing those Nationals games. They had some issues with runners in scoring position. Ian Desmond, a really capable power shortstop. His strikeout rate spiked way too high, and he was bad. Ryan Zimmerman couldn't stay healthy. Their rotation couldn't stay healthy. They had, they were hoping that Gio Gonzalez or Tanner Roark, these type of players that you might have heard of before, would step in and do stuff for them, and it just did not happen, right? They were so inconsistent, so poor, and they didn't just regress. They weren't just in that team, They were just bad. They were just bad. And some people might be wondering now, hey, 2022, the Padres get a little lucky. Snuck into the playoffs, not snuck in, but they, got into the playoffs, but it's not like they were a dominant team. Maybe we shouldn't have looked at that as like, oh my God, they've got it all. And instead, they blow up their farm, get rid of all their assets, which, granted, if you're going to do that for any player, it's Juan Soto, but that's in a vacuum. This Padres team already had some stars, and they end up signing Bogarts too. I've been saying it for months. I'm not necessarily sure that they had to do that. And before people yell at me, I know he's been insane. But what if you were able to fine-tune the edges of the team instead? What if maybe you spent that money elsewhere? What if you spent it on a couple other, solid players? I don't know. And actually, I will say, from what I've seen, the free agent class from this past year hasn't been all that incredible so far. From what I've seen, I know Correa has been disappointing. Judge has been fine, although he got a little bit hurt. But I don't think it's been that crazy of a free agent class. From what I've seen, it seems like some players are underperforming for that. But that it's still a month. But that's the team that the Padres remind me of right now. Just the overall vibes of this team has been just massively disappointing. And again, I barely even know where to start. We can recap the games, I guess, I suppose, if you guys want. Padres lost 4-0. If you want a positive, I think that Ryan Weathers was okay. He looks a lot better than when he first came up. Granted, I know that the final stat line, 5 2/3, gives up 4 earned runs on 4 walks and 3 Ks. It's still the Dodgers, though. It's a good lineup. Brent Honeywell comes in. He does okay. It has a nice little bounce back moment, 1 2/3. Tom Musgrove comes in and does some good stuff. But once again, they just can't bring in guys. They just refuse. If you have Tatis in fantasy baseball, congrats on that. 1 for 2 in this game with 2 walks and 2 stolen bases. Tatis has been great. No issue with him. And I know some people have been wondering they shouldn't put Tatis in the leadoff spot. I think he's excelling there, and throughout his career, that's mostly where he's played. In fairness, he can excel basically anywhere in the lineup. But for me, and Soto reportedly wanted to bat third. He has a bad final game in this series, going 0 for 4 with 2 Ks, naturally. Manny Machado goes 0 for 3 with a walk. Bogarts does get a double in this game. Finally gets an extra base hit, but also strikes out twice. Soto, and I was mentioning this before, he's been on fire lately. First game of the series, he goes 1 for 4 with a double in this one. Let me see. Hold on real quick. Goes 1 for 4 with a double in the first game. And the second game, he goes 2 for 4 with an RBI and a home run, which is great in this game. So a little bit better than his last series, but even still, you can't blame the guy. He's been great. But even still, team doesn't drive anybody in. So as soon as you get Tatis back, Machado is maybe slowly getting there, Soto wakes up. Well, Xander stinks. And then Cronenworth can't do anything. And then Nelson Cruz can't do anything. Matt Carpenter can't do anything. But then if you log on Padres Twitter, they're all saying Ha-Seong Kim needs to go. And I'm like, at least we know what he is. I wasn't expecting that man to be Trey Turner. I wasn't expecting him to be Elvis Andrus practically at the plate. I was just expecting he'd be an average 102, 103 WRC plus player, and he plays electric defense. I'm okay with that for my 8th hitter in the lineup. That's cool. Rest of the team, not so much. Grisham goes 1 for 3 in this one. He does get a double. Not the best series for him overall against the Dodgers. He had a couple strikeouts. In fact, he has been striking out again just way too much for my liking. That last game of the Twins series with 3 strikeouts, runners, bases loaded, striking out. 2 strikeouts against the Dodgers on Friday. Just not great from him overall, but Grisham, I don't even know where to start with Trent Grisham sometimes. It's just been rough. It really has. And I think that the Padres overall, it's just, I really think, and sometimes when I do this show, it's frustrating because it really can be summed up. They just refuse to score runs. Machado, I'm pretty sure, what is it? I believe it's Friday's game. So, and by the way, again, Weathers was fine, and I know that Tony Gonsolin looked good in this game, but even still, I don't care. At some point, I can't just get on here and say, well, in fairness, it's a good pitcher. No, because they can't do this against anybody. And if you've got all these great players in your lineup, it doesn't matter. You should still be able to score. I'm watching the Tampa Bay Rays head up Garrett Cole every other night. Oh, well, the Tampa Bay Rays are the best in the league. Fine. I've seen the Rockies do better against the Dodgers sometimes. They don't have nearly the talent level as the Padres. I've seen the damn Oakland A's have bigger games where they explode off of good pitchers. I saw them hit up Shohei Ohtani a couple weeks ago. I haven't seen that. I swear, not even once. Except for maybe Kershaw that one game when Tatis took him deep twice. Congrats, guys. You can hold that up as your banner. It's just a joke. Yeah, in Friday's game, I'm trying to bring it up right now. I believe it was Friday. Machado grounded out. He grounded to 2 double plays. It's just maddening. First and third, double play. You know what I mean? It's just every time you think that they are about to finally break out, they don't. They refuse to break out, this team offensively. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the fans. It's embarrassing for the sport in a lot of ways. And it's unfortunate because after all this money and in a sport that is about to relocate the A's out to, Las Vegas, that they're making those type of people look right. Because you spent all this money and you have been terrible. They refuse to drive in, guys. It's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. Such a nightmare. In fact, we're back here for my audio listeners back on the podcast. Sorry about that little break. But it's been such a nightmare. I forgot to go into my Joker mode. That's why I have the hat and everything right now. You know what I mean? I can't even muster my ridiculous laugh. I could barely do it right now. That's how crazy out I am. And it's really frustrating. Saturday's game, again, the Padres only scored 2 runs in this 3-game set after their manager calls them out, essentially calls them out. And again, the only poor team offensively was the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7 of a playoff series this past weekend. That's the only thing that let people down. Even the Yankees got their butts kicked by the Rays, but at least their offense showed up. You know what I mean? Their offense tried. It tried hard, man. Let me tell you. But Saturday's game against the Dodgers saw Joe Musgrove get tagged for 4 earned runs on 8 hits. He was bad. It was a disappointing start. Granted, it was a back-to-back, he just faced them on Sunday. So that might be a little bit of a cause for it. But in fairness, he hasn't looked so good so far this year. He hasn't looked great. I know part of it is because the Mexico City series was bad. But in general, he just doesn't look that sharp. He walked 4 in this game, which was really concerning. And granted, the Dodgers have seen him a lot over the years. This being his third kind of year with the team. Don't get me wrong. But even still, you still want a little bit better out of Musgrove, who you just got back and is supposed to be kind of the heart of your team. You know what I mean? The heart of your pitching staff. I know that Darvish, in my opinion, is still the best pitcher on the team, but he's still supposed to kind of be the heart of your team. And I don't think I saw anything like that was that super concerning, I don't think, from just the overall kind of stuff that I saw in the game. Like, I didn't see it. It's not like he just went down in velocity or anything like that. He still got some whiffs on his fastball, which was nice, but he's just not, locating the best right now. He's just not, he's getting hit bad. And I think it could be overall just a ramp up of things. Remember, he started off the season weird with that, hopefully not like a bad omen for this whole season as a whole, but the whole, weight room incident with his toe, like, it's just a really bad start. Again, it's just rough. But in this game, Julio Urias, they start off good. I mean, the Padres are able to get to him a little bit, but he bounces back. And that's one thing I've noticed about Urias, who is, in my opinion, probably one of the most underrated pitchers in the league. After you get the Soto home run in the top of the first inning, JD Martinez hits a 3-run home run. Ha-Seong Kim hits a home run in the top of the second. And after that, the Padres go quiet for the rest of the game. And it stinks. It really stinks. I just think that fundamentally, you need to show up. I don't care who the pitcher is. And it stinks. They can't hit Evan Phillips. They can't hit Bruce Gratterall. They can't hit Caleb Ferguson. No matter who it is. They just, every single time. I remember, what was it? Yeah. In the bottom of the ninth, in this one, you had Machado and then Soto ground out. And it's like, okay, yep, there we go. 2 ground outs. Awesome. Then Bogarts gets a single. Cruz gets a single. And then Cronenworth strikes out. It's almost like, whoa. No. We have to first get the people on base before we disappoint people. You know what I mean? Like we refuse to let the game end with bases 0. The Padres are the type of team that they will load the bases at the bottom of the ninth with nobody out, and you're down by 5, and they'll be like, all right, now we're going to be terrible. And then you get 3 straight strikeouts. That's what it's felt like following this Padres team this year. It's a nightmare. It really has been pretty bad. Some are going to say I'm overreacting, and in fairness, that's true. And again, I'm trying to do content, folks. It can be a little hard sometimes, having to recap a team and give my take every day, but this is just the current vibe of the team. That was Saturday's game. And in Friday's game, I will say, a pretty good start from Blake Snell. Quietly, here are Blake Snell's last few starts. Has he given up more than 2 earned runs in a while? And he's gone at least 5 innings since that start against the Mets. Again, not incredible, but last 3 starts. Against the Dodgers, 6 innings, 2 earned runs on 4 hits, 4 walks and 4 Ks. The 4 walks are bad. Against the Dodgers the last time, 6 innings, 2 earned runs on only 1 hit, the bad home run that he gave up, 3 walks and 6 strikeouts. And the start before that, against the Reds, 3 earned runs, no walks, over 6 innings, and 7 Ks. I think he's slowly getting there. I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of finally we're getting the turnaround from Blake Snell, right? We're getting to that point where he's always terrible at the beginning of the season. We were hoping that this year would be a little bit different. Unfortunately, it's not. And then he starts kind of looking a little bit better, right? Changing up his pitches and just not elevating the fastball too much to the point where hitters don't even swing at it, right? That sometimes can be a problem for Snell. And so far, as of these last few starts, he has looked considerably better, in my opinion. I think he's been just sharper, and that's a good thing. Again, the Padres starting pitching has really not been all that bad. And I know I haven't done a super duper recap as much as I usually do of these things, but, like a play-by-play sort of thing. But, hey, I mean, it's just kind of... I just feel like this is a therapy session. This is where we're at. I feel like I'm speaking for people. Hopefully I'm not going to get killed for this, but it's just... It's bad, man. It's really bad. And they play the Royals upcoming. My buddy Rylan Stiles and I are going to be previewing that series tomorrow. You guys can check out that preview. We'll talk about the series and what to expect from both teams. But, it's okay. You went through this stretch against quality teams and you got your butts kicked, right? You played the Reds. You won 2 out of 3 there. You won 1 against the Dodgers, then you got your butts kicked by the Twins, and you got your butts kicked by the Dodgers. After this, they play Kansas City, then they play Boston, and then they play Washington and the Yankees, one of which I will be going to the Saturday game against the Yankees. So I'm excited for that. So they don't face like the Dodgers for a while, and the Red Sox have a good record, but their starting pitching leads a little bit to be desired. I think that that's a team that, in theory, you should be able to beat up their pitching. So it's going to be an interesting next 2 series for the Padres. But unfortunately, you know what I see? Right now, the vibe for the Padres is they're going to go in and they're going to hit the Red Sox starting pitching. But because of that Red Sox lineup that's been performing well, now our pitchers will decide not to be great. That's what it feels like. Every time one thing has gone up, another thing has gone down, like the sliding scale type of thing. That's what's so maddening about this team. Every time it looks like they're doing one thing right, another thing becomes deplorable. It is so frustrating. I've said this already, but I got to say it again to conclude this podcast. It is so frustrating to see players not just go from here to but from here all the way to the journey of the center of the earth. You know, like that's what it's been like watching the Padres, and that's what it's been like the past few years. Aside from a few exceptions like Manny Machado and like Fernando Tatis Jr., obviously there's been exceptions, but like, man, like it's all over. I can talk it back to 2020, right? From the Padres in 2021, everyone in the second half became abysmal. Adam Frazier didn't just regress, he became a bench player regressive, right? After literally being named an all-star. Maybe they should have saw that coming, but still, you know. Last year, Luke Voit, even, you could say, he regressed. Maybe the league just figured him out and the Yankees knew, and that's why we got him for nothing. Totally fine. All right? Then it's like, oh, well, what about Cronenworth? Then Cronenworth regresses dramatically. Then it's like, oh, what about Grisham? A guy who looked like a top 15 outfielder, he regresses dramatically in 2022. And the second half of 2021. It's just been... And I know a lot of people are wondering, like, all right, what is Bob Melvin going to do? What is AJ Preller going to do? I don't know. But, and people have gone back on AJ Preller. I recently, if people want to go check it out at justbaseball.com, I talked about AJ Preller and compared him to Russell Westbrook. I'll leave it at that. Maybe I'll do that as an episode, talking about that article. It might be a timely time, honestly, to talk about Russell Westbrook. It wasn't necessarily meant to be a flattering comparison. But, yeah, I think. Leave in the comments if you want me to talk about that, if you made it this far. Might be for an episode, maybe on an off day or something. But it's just, oh, man, it's so frustrating. The thing that can be said is being 30th in the league with runners in scoring position with this lineup, that suggests that they can't be that bad. It would actually be all-time level of incredible if with Soto, Bogarts, Machado, and Tatis, you managed to be that bad with runners in scoring position. That's like kind of incredible. Like it really is. But as of right now, I don't know what they do. And hopefully this is as bad as it gets. But right now, I am getting the 2015 Nationals vibes. Just disappointment. Everyone got mystified by the allure. And granted, I was excited too. I'm not going to distance myself too much from it. I thought they'd be good. I thought they'd had the FU lineup where they just had the top 4 and they'd like screw everything else. And that's happened before. Orioles with the, you know, when Machado was over there, they said, screw it. We're just going to hit home runs and do crazy stuff. And this is what's happened. And, you know, it's just so frustrating. It is so frustrating as a fan. It is so frustrating to see you just go out and play like this. It's like, it's almost like you saw the hype and said, we need to disappoint as many people as possible. And that's, for one thing, my sports life. That's what's felt like me being a fan of any team, of any sport, or any player in the case of the NBA and Chris Paul, for example, like just always finding a way to disappoint. And that's been the Padres so far. And I imagine over the coming days, people are going to have a lot of questions about Preller, a lot of questions about Melvin. We'll see. I don't think they're at DEFCON 1 or anything, or DEFCON 4, whichever is the highest. I always forget that. But they're certainly, at least the DEFCON is on, because this team should not be performing this poorly. It just can't be done. It can't be done. It shouldn't be done. You just cannot be getting out hit like this. You cannot have that top of the lineup going out with a whimper literally every time. Teams should be fearing the top of that lineup. Even if the bottom is only average at best, they should be terrified, even if they have a 3-run lead, that you're like, oh man, okay, we have Grisham, but then we have Tatis, Soto, Machado, and Bogarts. You know what I'm saying? That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Hopefully, everybody, you enjoyed today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, Javiipeno. I'm going to be doing some fun writing soon for justbaseball.com. You could check that out. Might talk about that Westbrook piece on the show. Yeah. Look forward to the crossovers with me and Ryland this week. We're going to be doing our weekly general discussion, updating and looking at the new updated power rankings from the Locked On MLB Network. And then also we're going to be previewing tomorrow the Royals and Padres series, where I can talk a little bit more in depth about the Pods. He could give me some intel on the Royals. Hopefully you guys are watching this episode and you're laughing because you're saying Javi lost his mind on Monday's episode and we are currently winning against the Royals 7-0. And it's the third inning. Maybe. But as of right now, they are looking like one of the bigger busts I've personally seen in a while in the sport. Specifically since I was watching the Nationals. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe and of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies. Even when it gets tough. Take care.